Your poor family and your poor relatives are not welcome at this wedding. That is final." For a moment, I honestly thought Vanessa was joking. We were sitting in her parents' dining room in Greenwich, Connecticut, about an hour outside New York City. It was a Thursday evening in April of 2024. The table looked like something out of a magazine: white linen, crystal glasses, candles that nobody actually needed because the chandelier overhead was already bright enough to read by. Vanessa sat across from me with her usual cool little smile, the one that never reached her eyes. I remember exactly what I had been talking about. My cousin Danny had finally gotten approved for time off from his job at the tire plant back home in Ohio. I was excited because almost my entire family was going to make it to the wedding. I said, "Dad is renting a small shuttle so everybody can get from the hotel to the venue without worrying about parking." Vanessa set down her fork. "A shuttle," she said. "Yeah," I said. "There will be about 22 of us coming from Ohio." She glanced at her brother, my fiancé, Adam. Not a big glance, just enough. Then she smiled. "Well," she said, "that is certainly a lot of people." Something about the way she said it made my stomach tighten. I had seen that look before. Not once, not twice. Dozens of times. The truth was that Vanessa had never liked my family. She was always polite enough to avoid an outright insult, but there were comments, little ones, questions about where I grew up, questions about what my parents did for work, questions about why people from my town talked the way they did. Each comment by itself was easy to brush off. Together they painted a picture, and that picture was never flattering. I tried to move the conversation along. "My mom is already planning to help with the favors," I said. Vanessa laughed, actually laughed. "Claire, sweetheart, your mother seems perfectly nice," she said. The way she leaned on the word nice told me something unpleasant was coming. I just do not think little homemade touches really fit the level of event we are creating here. The room went quiet. I looked at Adam. He stared at his plate. Not a good sign. "My mom was only trying to help," I said. "Help," Adam repeated, and he almost smiled. I forced my voice to stay even. "We were never going to ask your family to bring anything." "Well," Vanessa said, "that is a relief." Then she chuckled again. That little chuckle was what finally got under my skin. "Is there something funny?" I asked. She looked surprised that I had said anything at all. "Yes," she said. "Honestly, there is." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then she leaned back in her chair. "Claire, if we are being honest, I worry about whether your people will even be comfortable somewhere like this." The words landed harder than they probably sounded, because I knew exactly what she meant. My father had worked 38 years on the floor of a manufacturing plant. My mother had spent 2 decades in the billing office of a county hospital. My brother drove a forklift. Nobody in my family belonged to clubs. Nobody wore designer labels. Nobody cared about any of that. "They will be fine," I said. Vanessa shook her head slowly. "That is not really what I mean," she said. Of course it was not. I turned toward Adam. He still would not look at me. A cold feeling spread through my chest. Then Vanessa said the thing I will never forget. "Let us just be honest with each other," she said. "They come across as charity cases, a whole busload of charity cases." The room froze. Even her father looked down at his napkin. I could not believe what I had just heard. My ears felt hot. For a second I thought, surely Adam will say something now, anything. Tell her she is wrong. Tell her to apologize. Tell her to stop. Instead, he cleared his throat. "Vanessa's wording was harsh," he said. I blinked. Wording. That was the problem. Not the cruelty. The wording. "Adam," I said quietly. He finally met my eyes. "Claire, your family does not really fit who we are trying to be." I honestly wondered if I had misheard him. "What?" I said. "We have talked about this before," he said. "No," I said. "We have not." He rubbed his forehead and looked annoyed, as if I were the one being difficult. "We want a certain kind of life," he said. "A wedding," I said. "A marriage," he said. "My marriage, our marriage." I stared at him. Then came the sentence that ended everything. He looked at me and he said, "Your poor family and your poor relatives are not welcome." The room felt strangely far away, like I was hearing it all through water. I looked at Vanessa. She was not even trying to hide how pleased she was. Then I looked back at Adam. Are you serious? I asked. He nodded. It is for the best, he said. I waited. 1 second, two, 5. No apology came, no hesitation, no sign at all that he understood how cruel he had just been. And that is when something inside me went completely calm. Not angry, not yet, just calm. I pushed my chair back. Nobody spoke. I picked up my purse. Vanessa looked almost relieved, as if she had expected tears, or yelling, or begging. Instead, I simply stood up. Well, I said quietly, I guess that is all I needed to know. Then I walked out. The drive back to the townhouse we shared in Stamford felt unreal. The radio stayed off. The highway lights blurred past. I kept replaying it. Every word, every expression, every moment. Adam had chosen his sister's approval over basic decency, and he had done it without even flinching. By midnight, I was packing. 1 suitcase, 1 overnight bag, nothing dramatic, no smashing of pictures, no screaming into the phone, just folding clothes and moving carefully through rooms that suddenly did not feel like home anymore. The engagement ring sat on the kitchen counter, right beside his espresso machine. A small note rested under it, 3 words. Take care, Adam. That was all. At 1 in the morning, I checked into a roadside hotel off the interstate. The woman at the front desk looked exhausted. She handed me a key and wished me a good night. I thanked her. Then I sat alone in room 214, eating peanut butter crackers from a vending machine, and for the first time all evening, I cried. Not because the wedding was over, because I could not believe I had almost married a man who thought so little of the people who raised me. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from Adam. 2 texts, 1 voicemail. I ignored all of them. Around 10, my phone rang again. This time, I did not recognize the number. An Ohio area code, which was strange. I almost let it go. Something made me answer. Hello, I said. A woman hesitated. Then she said, Is this Claire Donnelly? Yes, I said. My name is Diane Maxwell, she said. I did not know the name. She took a slow breath. I was engaged to Adam Whitmore before you were. I sat straight up. The silence stretched. Then she said something that made my pulse quicken. There are some things about the Whitmore family that you deserve to know. I sat on the edge of that hotel bed, staring at the faded painting above the dresser. Finally, I asked, How did you get my number? Mutual friends, she said. When I heard the engagement was off, I figured it ended the same way mine did. A chill ran through me. What way was that? I asked. There was a pause. Then she said 1 word. Vanessa. I closed my eyes. That single word told me more than any long explanation could have. Diane gave a quiet laugh. Yeah, she said. That is usually the reaction. I was not ready to trust a stranger, especially one claiming to be his former fiancé. Still, curiosity got the better of me, and we ended up talking for almost an hour. Diane lived back in Ohio now, not far from where I grew up. She worked as a nurse and had been married for 6 years. She sounded calm, not bitter, just relieved. That was what made me keep listening. You know what is funny? She said. For 2 years, I thought I was the problem. I did not answer, because I knew exactly what she meant. Vanessa had a gift for making you feel like you were never quite good enough. She never came right out and said it, Diane went on. No, I said softly. She definitely does not. Did she ask 1,000 questions about your family? Diane asked. About money, about where you grew up. Yes, I said, to all of it. Then congratulations, Diane said. You got the full experience. Despite everything, I laughed. It was the first real laugh I had managed since I left that dining room. The similarities were unsettling. Diane had grown up working class too. Her father drove a delivery route. Her mother cleaned offices at night. Vanessa had spent years on her, the same quiet drip of comments that added up over time. Then came the part that truly caught my attention. Did Adam ever stand up to her? I asked. Diane answered before I even finished. Never, she said. Not once. He would always tell me his sister meant well, or that I was misunderstanding her, or he would ask me to be patient and then somehow make me feel guilty for being upset. I stared at the wall. Every word of it sounded painfully familiar. For a moment, neither of us spoke. It was strange to hear my own life described by a woman I had never met. Eventually, Diane said something that stayed with me. "Claire, the wedding was never the real problem," she said. "He will always become whatever version of himself his family wants. And Vanessa runs that family." I did not answer because deep down I already knew she was right. Before she hung up, she gave me one last piece of advice. "Do not waste a single month wondering if you made the right choice," she said, "because I spent 2 years ignoring what you figured out in one night." After we ended the call, I sat quietly for a long time. Part of me wanted to move on at once, find a new place, forget the Whitmore name existed. But another part of me kept replaying old memories, the kind I had trained myself to ignore. Now they looked different, like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. I should explain what I do for a living, because it matters to the rest of this story. I am a forensic accountant. Companies and law firms hire me to look closely at financial records and tell the difference between a real number and a number that is only pretending. I had spent 10 years learning to read a balance sheet the way other people read a face. Funny that I had read a stranger's books more carefully than I had ever read the man I almost married. Over the next week, I stayed busy. Work helped. One evening, going through an old folder on my laptop, I found years of emails from Adam. I was not looking for anything in particular. I just wanted closure. Instead, I found inconsistencies. A deal he had always described as his big triumph, the merger he said he personally led, did not hold together. The public filings showed he had not even joined the project until the hard part was finished. That was not leadership. That was showing up after the work was done. I found another example, and another. Nothing illegal, just a pattern. Adam had a habit of turning a supporting part into a starring role, of polishing reality until it shone brighter than it deserved. For the first time, I wondered how much of the whole Whitmore image was actually real because I had not fallen in love with a liar. At least I did not think I had. Maybe I had fallen in love with a carefully edited version of someone. That hurt more than Vanessa's insults because it made me question my own judgment. One Friday, I drove out to my parents' place in Ohio. Dad was in the garage fixing an old mower when I pulled in. He looked up and smiled. "Hey, kiddo," he said. That was all. No awkward questions, no lecture, just, "Hey, kiddo." I nearly cried right there in the driveway. Mom hugged me so tightly I thought she might crack a rib. That weekend reminded me what unconditional love actually feels like. We grilled burgers, watched a ball game, played cards at the kitchen table. Life felt normal again. Then on Monday morning, everything changed. I got a call from a senior partner at my firm, a sharp and decent woman named Helen Cross. "Claire," she said, "I need your best work on something big, a full forensic review for a private equity client. They are about to put a very large amount of money into a company, and they want us to confirm the books are clean before they sign." I asked the usual questions: industry, size, timeline. Then Helen mentioned the name of the company, and I nearly dropped my coffee. "The Whitmore Luxury Group," she said. I stared out the window. The same family, the same dining room, the same people who had called my parents' charity cases. For a moment, I thought about asking to be taken off the engagement. Then something inside me shifted. This was not about Adam. This was not about Vanessa. This was business, real business, important business. And I was very, very good at it. I told Helen I would take it. I want to be clear about something, because it matters more than anything else in this story. I did not go looking for revenge. I went looking for the truth. Those are not the same thing. Everything I touched was a document the company itself had handed over, or a record anybody could legally pull. I did not break a single rule. I just did my job, the way I would have for any client, with any name on the file. The Whitmore Group projected wealth the way a movie set projects a city. From a distance, everything looked flawless. Up close, things got complicated. As chief financial officer, Vanessa had built the entire financial story of the company, and she had built it beautifully. Too beautifully. There was a cluster of vendors that were paid generously every quarter, but never seemed to deliver anything you could point to. Several of them shared the same mailing address, a small rented unit in a strip mall, and that made my stomach drop because I had seen it before, and it almost never means anything innocent. Money was leaving the company through fake invoices, looping through those shell vendors, and quietly coming back to accounts that traced to Vanessa herself. On top of that, the inventory and the brand valuations had been inflated year after year to make the company look far healthier than it was. The investment everyone was so excited about was built on numbers that did not exist. I checked it twice, then 3 times. Then I sat back in my chair and felt very calm and very cold, the same way I had felt that night at the dinner table. I did not celebrate. I did not feel triumphant. Mostly, I felt tired and a little sad because underneath all of it was a family that had spent so much energy convincing the world they were better than everyone else, and the whole thing was hollow. People who feel secure rarely work that hard to prove they matter. While I was buried in those records, the Whitmores were busy too. Vanessa had started talking. A mutual acquaintance told me she was telling people I had overreacted, that I had walked away from a good man over a misunderstanding. Someone else heard I was only after the family money. The message did not change. Vanessa was rewriting history, and people were listening. Within a few weeks, 2 prospective clients of mine quietly went with someone else. Neither gave a reason. Those circles are smaller than you think, and rumors travel faster than facts. One evening, I sat alone in my office, staring at an empty line in my calendar where a contract should have been, and I felt that tired kind of anger that settles into your bones. For a moment, I thought about fighting back in public. Instead, I called my father. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, kiddo," he said, and just hearing it made me feel better. Eventually, I told him what was happening. He listened quietly. When I finished, he asked one question. "What do you actually want?" he said. I thought about it. "Justice," I said. Dad laughed softly. "No," he said. "You want them to lose. That is different." After a few seconds, he added something that stayed with me. "You do not need revenge, kiddo," he said. "You need the truth. The truth is heavier. It does not need your help to land." After we hung up, I sat there a long time thinking about that. The truth. Clean, simple, no exaggeration, just the facts. That became my approach. Not because I was planning some grand takedown, because I was tired of appearances, tired of stories, tired of people pretending. There was one more thing I found, and it was not in the financial records at all. It came up almost by accident, while I was verifying the history of one of the family's charitable foundations. The trail led me into some old public genealogy documents, the kind anyone can access. A surname caught my eye, and I kept reading, and then I sat back in my chair and said, out loud, to an empty office, "No way." Vanessa's great-grandparents had not been old money. They had been coal miners and mill workers from a hard little town 2 states over, working-class people whose lives looked almost exactly like the family Vanessa loved to mock. The woman who called my parents' charity cases came from the very same kind of roots. I spent an hour confirming it. The records were clear. I did not know whether to laugh or shake my head. In the end, I did both. By September, the investment was moving toward its final stage, and the firm receiving the money decided to do what wealthy people always do before they sign. They threw a party, a large investor gala at a grand hotel ballroom in the city, the kind of evening where the deal would be celebrated in front of everyone who mattered. The guest list arrived in my inbox, and my chest tightened. Business leaders, major investors, attorneys, local press, practically everyone the Whitmore family had spent decades trying to impress. About 400 people, all in one room. My firm was invited because we had done the review. Helen asked me to be there to walk the lead investors through our findings if they had questions. I almost said no. Then I realized this was the one room in the city where reputations mattered most, and the truth I had found was about to walk into it whether I wanted it to or not. So I went. The night of the gala, I stood near the edge of that ballroom in a simple navy dress, watching a world that had once looked down on me congratulate itself. Around 8, Vanessa made her entrance. She did not arrive so much as she performed arriving, gliding through the crowd in an expensive gown, greeting people as if they were guests in her home. Some things never change. A little later, she spotted me and came over with that smile, the same smile I had seen 100 times. "Claire," she said. "Vanessa," I said. She looked me up and down. "I must admit," she said, "I am surprised they let you in." I kept my voice level. "I did the review of your company," I said. Something flickered across her face. Then the smile returned. "Harder now." "I am sure you did your little part," she said. "Tell me, are your charity cases comfortable tonight? Or did the dress code keep them home?" The words were quiet, just loud enough. Before I could answer, another voice cut in. "Excuse me," it said. We both turned. A silver-haired man in his late 60s stood beside us, the host of the evening and the principal of the firm putting up the money. Vanessa straightened, ready to charm him, but he was not looking at her. He was looking at me. "Are you Claire Donnelly?" he asked. "Yes," I said. His face broke into a grin. "Then you are the reason this room is about to be very honest," he said. Vanessa's smile froze. The man kept going, and he was not unkind about it, only plain. He explained to me and to the small crowd that had drifted closer that his firm had reviewed our findings that very afternoon, that the investment was off, that the company's books, the ones Vanessa had built and signed and defended for years, did not survive a single honest look. He did not gloat. He simply told the truth, and the truth did all the work. People do not always understand numbers, but they understand a face, and Vanessa's face told the whole story. The room shifted. A few guests stepped back. Phones came out. A reporter near the bar set down her glass. I did not say a single word. I had handed in my report weeks earlier. Tonight I was only a witness, like everyone else. Then, the way these things go, the conversation around us drifted, the way a crowd does when it senses blood and pretends it does not. Someone mentioned old family histories, and a woman near the front, smiling sweetly, said, "Vanessa, weren't your people coal miners out by the river?" The silence that followed was almost impressive. Vanessa froze. One man nodded slowly, as if a small thing had finally made sense. Nobody planned it. People simply connected the dots themselves, and the dots told them that the woman who looked down on working families had come from one herself, and nobody, not one person, seemed to care where she came from. They cared how she had treated people. That was what lingered. That was the night the Whitmore Group truly collapsed. Not because anyone attacked it, because the gap between the image and the reality had finally been measured, and it could not be unseen. In the weeks that followed, the deal died for good. The banks pulled back. The board met behind closed doors and removed Vanessa as chief financial officer. The personal guarantees she had signed, so confident she would never need them, were called in. By the end of the year, she had lost the title, the company, and most of the money the title had bought her. No handcuffs at the door, just a slow, quiet, complete unraveling. Real life rarely gives you fireworks. It gives you consequences. I should tell you about Adam, because he was there that night too. Late in the evening, after the worst of it, I stepped out into a quiet hallway to breathe, and I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. It was Adam. Only this time, something was different. The confidence was gone. No polished smile, no rehearsed lines, just a tired man who had finally run out of excuses. "Claire," he said. "Adam," I said. For a moment, he just stood there. Then he said something I never expected. "You were right," he said. I blinked. "What?" I said. "You were right," he repeated, and he looked at the floor. "I should have stood up for you. I should have stood up for your family." The honesty surprised me. Then he took a breath. "Claire," he said, "I made the biggest mistake of my life. Years earlier, those words would have shattered my resolve. Not now. Not because I hated him, because too much had happened. Some bridges do not burn all at once. They come apart one board at a time, and by the time you notice, There is nothing left to cross. I looked at him carefully. For the first time in months, I was not seeing the man who had hurt me. I was seeing a man facing the consequences of who he had let himself become, and honestly, that was punishment enough. A few nearby guests had drifted close. Adam noticed, and then he did the one thing the old Adam never would have done. He raised his voice, just enough to be heard. "Claire," he said, "I am sorry." The hallway went quiet. "I should have defended you. I should have defended your family. I was more worried about how things looked than about doing the right thing." Nobody moved. He swallowed. "I thought maybe you would come back," he said. And there it was, the real reason. Not love, not entirely. Fear, regret, loneliness. All the things people discover only after they have lost something that mattered. I took a slow breath, and then I smiled. Not a cruel smile, just a peaceful one. "Adam," I said, "this was never about the wedding. It was not about the shuttle. It was not about your sister. It was about respect. You asked me to build a life with you, and when it mattered most, you chose status over character." The words landed softly, but they landed. I was not trying to humiliate him. Revenge had stopped being the goal a long time ago. The truth was enough. "I hope you figure things out," I said. His eyes glistened. "Is there really no chance?" he asked. I smiled sadly. "No," I said. For the first time, he did not argue. He just nodded. And that was the end of us. An hour later, the gala ended. I should tell you the last part, because it is the part that actually matters. A few weeks after that night, Helen called me into her office. Word of the review had traveled. The investors talked. The work spoke for itself. The firm offered me a partnership, the thing I had quietly wanted for 10 years and never quite believed would come. Not because of luck. Not because of revenge, because I kept showing up and doing the work honestly, even when the file had the worst possible name on it. The following spring, I drove back to Ohio for a family barbecue. Dad stood beside the grill, arguing about the right way to cook a burger. Mom carried a bowl of potato salad to the picnic table. My brother and 2 cousins were yelling about a ball game. Kids ran through the yard, a dog barked at nothing, somebody turned on the radio. The ordinary beauty of it nearly brought me to tears. These were the people Adam thought were not good enough, the people Vanessa called charity cases, the people who had loved me through every single stage of my life, without ever once asking me to be ashamed of where I came from. Standing in that backyard, I realized something important. I had not won because the Whitmores lost. I had won because I refused to become like them. I kept my family. I kept my integrity. I kept my future. And in the end, those things were worth more than any wedding could ever have been. If there is one thing this whole experience taught me, it is that character reveals itself eventually, sometimes slowly, sometimes painfully, but always. And the people who truly belong in your life will never, ever ask you to be ashamed of where you came from. So let me ask you something before you go. Has someone ever looked down on you or on your family for not having enough money, for not fitting their image? If you have ever sat at a table like that one, holding your dignity in both hands while someone tried to take it, I would love to hear your story. Leave it below in the comments and tell me how it ended. And if this reminded you of someone you have known, do me one small favor. Stay a while. Tell a friend. Because somebody out there needs to hear that walking away with your head held high is not losing. Sometimes it is the bravest thing a person can do. Thank you for spending this time with me. I will see you in the next one.